This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. I'm Kyle Hawk, and I am here today with Dennis Lamb of the Mad Hatter Chimney Service in Indianapolis. And we were just talking with Dennis about the importance of a chimney sweep. But along with that, there's some other things you can do to protect your fireplace and your chimney as well. And Dennis, we kind of used a couple different terms in that first segment, talking about chimney inspection, chimney sweep. What's the difference there? I mean, you told us a little bit about what happens during a sweep, but for a chimney inspection, what's going to happen with that?
Well, first off, usually, at least 90% of the time, maybe more than that, it's a sweep and an inspection, because even if a fireplace has been mildly used, we're probably going to have to clean things up a bit and perform a sweep in order to even see everything that we need to be able to see, visualize, check, and make sure that it's okay.
Yeah.
So many times it's a sweep followed by an inspection, and during the inspection, that's when we're going to check for things, code compliance according to the NFPA 211's standards by which we operate. So that starts with the outer hearth being the protection area outside the fireplace for popping embers or anything, inspecting the firebox itself, make sure that it's intact, making sure that the damper opens and closes like it should. Certainly inspect the smoke chamber, and that's basically an upside down funnel above the firebox itself that leads all of the products of combustion into the flue itself, and then look at the flue itself from the bottom up as much as we can see. Sometimes it may require a level 2 inspection, which means that we have a specialized camera that goes up the flue itself so we can visualize all of it, its entire length, to make sure that it doesn't have any gaps or missing mortar joints or big cracks or anything of that nature. So it's kind of like, as I tell consumers, this is like a colonoscopy for your chimney, except you don't have to do any prep work. We'll do that. So they kind of understand it. So we're going to inspect things and then check things out according to the NFPA 211 standards, and then advise the consumer as to what all's going on with their fireplace and chimney.
You know, as we talked about at the start of the show, this is the time of year where people are starting to think about using the fireplace. And, you know, whether you're going out and getting the wood yourself or maybe you're buying it from someone, there are things that we know should go in the fireplace, but there are also some things that shouldn't be burned in the fireplace. Tell us a little bit about some things that we shouldn't be putting in there.
Well, you want to minimize the burning of paper. You don't want to use your fireplace as your document shredder. Just get a document shredder. They're best off for that. And then you want to also, I encourage consumers to minimize the amount, any kind of pine that they might have that they burn. Burn that outside in your outdoor fire pit or at a campsite or something like that. Don't necessarily burn too much of that in your fireplace. Otherwise, a mixture of, some hardwoods, some softer woods and things, it really doesn't make much difference. But wood is one of the biggest mistakes that I see consumers make consistently throughout, is not having properly seasoned firewood. And everybody's definition of seasoned seems to vary a little bit. I'll be honest and tell you, ours is that this should be a tree that has either been cut down or fell down, then has been cut to length, then has been split, then has been stacked and covered and drying for about a year and a half up to almost 2 years. And then we know that things are going to be dry enough to burn consistently. And one of the things I recommend to consumers, even based on my own experience by using a fireplace all the time, is the fact that a good indication of the moisture content of the wood, or whether or not it's not dried out or seasoned properly, will be how well it ignites, how well it burns, and what it burns down to. In a perfect world, we want logs to ignite. Say, for example, you've got your fire going and things are going along pretty well, and you put another log on the fire, that should ignite and burn, and things should burn down almost to where it's just ash by the time everything is all done. If you have some major leftovers and some logs that just smoldered out and things of that nature, your wood is not properly seasoned. They sell moisture meters, and we normally try and we have at least one of those at the Mad Hatter. I've contemplated buying a couple more for our other trucks as well, because this, like I said, this is an area where consumers make big mistakes. I went to one of my customers' house not too long ago. He was all excited about the wood he just received from the guy who assured him it was seasoned firewood. It was sure a big bubble burster when I went to his wood pile with my moisture meter, and it alarmed on everything that I picked up and stuck the prongs into. So he's got some, and this has probably been because it's stored outside. There's a difference between, it's been cut and split and stacked, but if it's been stored outside, it's been exposed to the elements, and every time it rains, it gets re-soaked. And so you really have to have that drying process occur with it covered, either inside or, with a tarp on it outside, and allow it to really dry out. There's a varying moisture percentage. Anything, below 20% is probably going to be acceptable. But when you get up above 20%, you're not going to get a very good burn out of that, which also leads to a more dangerous buildup of soot and creosote because of the moisture content in the wood.
That's really good information to know, and brings up some good questions to be asking as the consumer, because I think a lot of people probably just assume wood is wood, but it definitely sounds like that's not the case. So some good things to be thinking about there. Let's talk about chimney caps for a minute. It's another thing that we've just kind of mentioned during the discussion, but as far as, getting into the details of the anatomy of your chimney, tell us a little about what the chimney cap does and its importance as far as maintenance goes.
Well, several things that the chimney cap will do and assist with maintenance. First and foremost, it's never a good idea to have an uncapped chimney. This allows moisture invasion to come from the top. Like in an older home with a masonry style fireplace, typical 12 by 12 flue is like a big open bucket at the top of the house, and every time it rains, snows, sleets, anything, then it's going right down the flue, which has a tendency to deteriorate the mortar joints inside the flue itself, exacerbate the freeze-thaw process occurring that can degrade the masonry structure of the chimney itself. It's also flowing down the flue to then soak the firebox itself, and potential deterioration of that, which would lead to further damage. Other reasons might be to keep animals out of the flue itself. Sure. There are many animals that will get in there. Raccoons are real popular with chimneys. They climb in there all the time, in and out, have babies, leave all their debris along with that. Chimney swifts are a migratory species that will fly inside to an open chimney, make a nest, have babies, make a lot of noise, make a lot of a mess, and then have to be cleaned up afterwards. After they leave, they are a migratory species, so they're protected by the Migratory Species Act, and there are some hefty fines associated with either anybody in my industry or consumers disturbing those nests. It's much like under the same laws that the Canadian goose is protected by. So, but you want to keep all of this stuff out of the chimney. You also want to provide some screens at the top of the chimney that would catch any embers that might escape during the burn process and go up the flue and make their way out to then potentially ignite either rooftops or other debris on the roof, travel to the ground and ignite things down there. So that's another reason why a chimney cap is a great idea.
Yeah. Are there some signs that maybe my chimney cap is in need of repair, replacement? Am I going to have to get up on my roof and look at it? What should I know?
If a chimney cap is severely rusted, or the screens are missing, or notice animals coming and going and making their way in and not being stopped, then you certainly have a problem. One of the other things that gets confused with chimney caps are chimney chase covers, as we refer to them as. Chimney chase covers are the metal portion. Many times it's like a galvanized sheet metal that's applied to the top of a home. For example, for like my home up in Fishers, just a regular old Pulte home, nothing special, a little prefabricated fireplace. At the top of that, I have a chimney chase cover. The lifespan on one of those is usually about anywhere from 15 to 20, 22 years. Okay. Then they start rusting, leaking, all kinds of problems associated with those, and then we can replace those as well. Something to keep in mind with that, though, is that the rest of the structure, being the cap itself that came with that fireplace, is all part of the UL listing, or Underwriter Laboratories listing, of that entire appliance that would be the factory-built fireplace that's installed into that home. That cap must remain the same in order to maintain its UL listing, and that's what we remain consistent with. So we remove your existing cap, remove the failed chase cover that's rusting or leaking, replace that with a stainless steel version of the same thing, and then put your original cap as well as a storm collar or whatever else is going on up there. A lot of times we see black boxes at the top of the chimney. Those are, in fact, the cap that goes along with that chimney, and we want to keep those in place if we can, if they're not deteriorated, and many times we'll sand and paint those as part of that process as well. But whether it's a factory-built fireplace or a masonry fireplace, it should have a cap on the top of the chimney. Yeah. And you should also have a cap on the top of any furnace flues as well, because animals will make their way into that, raccoons especially, and many times they don't know what they're getting into, and so they don't know they're shimmying down a carbon monoxide-laced environment, and they will wind up dying inside the chimney. And there's nothing too good about the smell of a dead raccoon in your furnace flue. So you don't want that either. So it's more reasons to have a good cap on top of the chimney.
Yeah, no question. It's time for us to take another quick break here, but hold tight. When we come back, we're going to give you some helpful information on what's trending, and we're also going to take your listener questions. We've got a fire lit under us today. We're going to be right back here on Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
More than 2 million members use the power of Angie's List to find and hire great local service providers. Whether you need a plumber or a pet sitter, Angie's List has you covered. See ratings and reviews in hundreds of categories, shop popular offers, and request scheduling assistance directly online. Memberships start at just $9.99 per year. That's less than $1 a month. Join now and get 40% off with promo code WIBC40. Visit angieslist.com today.